In the winter of 2009, Aaron Schultz of Walt Disney's ReturnToOz.com, Celia Foster of the former ReturnToOzTheMovie.com, and Aaron Passantine of VideosForFamily.com conducted an interview with Paul Maslansky, one of the producers of Return to Oz.
Were you attached to the project when Walter got fired for about 48 hours?
Well, it depends. It depends when Walter got fired. I think was that in? I've never heard that story. You're telling me something about, but I'll tell you a far more interesting story. And I mean, I don't know when Walter was fired. It was never during the movie, if that's what you mean. It was an incident that happened. We were 5 weeks into it already. Walter had contretemps with Freddie Francis, one of the great photographers of all time. Also someone I really felt was just right for the picture, but Freddie couldn't take Walter's manner of directing, put it that way, and also a manner of interacting with crew, especially with someone as distinguished as Freddie Francis. And Walter had his own ideas. And in any event, we brought in what's his name, Davey Watkins, a wonderful photographer, and he picked up very quickly. But after 5 weeks, I'm in my office, and I had it always. I knew what was going on in the set, even if I wasn't on the set. And at first, I was on the set virtually almost all the time because I didn't. Walter had never directed before. He was a distinguished editor and certainly the greatest sound editor that ever came down the pipe. But I recognized the kind of restraint that he had. And after the first day, we were already, by the second day, we were a full day behind. After the third day, we were almost 2 days behind. And I've never had a picture like that. That I haven't either fired the director or asked the studio to step in or whatever. And so after about a week or 10 days, I realized we're dragging our feet. The crew doesn't have any spirit. The actors aren't really getting the messages. Walter is pretty much involved in details. And the communication wasn't really great. After about 5 weeks, I'm up in my room, and I knew what was going on the set at all times. So I heard, this is in the room with all the heads, right? You know the scene in the cap. That was the day that I'm in my office, and I hear I had a channel, I could hear what's going on in the set. And I heard camera turn over, and I never heard cut. Finally, I heard the assistant director, knowing I was listening, said, I think you better come down here. I come down there, and there's Walter sitting in his chair, and quite frankly, his eyes were like swinging around. I mean, he was obviously confused. So we cut the camera, and I told the assistant director to take some time out. I said, Walter, what's wrong? And he says, I don't know where I am. And I said, what do you mean? He says, no, I don't know where we are in the picture. I don't know. I said, come on upstairs and lie down. He goes to his office. He lies down. I said, oh, shit, here we go. 5 weeks into it, and we're like this. So Dick Berger was in town. I called Dick because he was meeting with the Disney people in London. I asked Dick to come to the studio. I said, we got a little problem. Dick comes to the studio, and he sees that Walter, frankly, was not really capable of making his call the next day or even going back to work. He was rather tired and distracted and not in charge. I called the set and asked the first assistant to continue shooting the scene, which was a big special effects scene anyway. So Zoran came in, I think, and I called him in to direct the scene. So Walter goes home. And I think this was maybe on a Friday. We didn't shoot Saturdays. And Walter goes home. And I get a call in the studio, and it's from George Lucas, Cole Lucas, or somebody. We didn't. And Lucas, and now, by the way, Berger and I are now making lists of possible directors to take this picture over. The train has left the station. You don't stop this train because it's a big special effects picture with extras, with all sorts of construction. You've got to either get a replacement in right away or find a solution to what you got here. This is a major problem, one of the biggest problems I've had in my career.
Wow.
And Dick was in town. Dick Berger was in town. So any event, the phone calls from Lucas, and Lucas is in Japan. He's just arrived from San Francisco. He said, I hear Walter's not well. I said, you know, it's very strange. I don't know you, George, but I got to tell you something. I don't know whether he's capable of going on to complete the pictures. He's rather confused. And George says, I'll be over there. Give me 24 hours. I said, terrific. 20 minutes later, I get another call. Who's this? It's Steven Spielberg. Steven said, I hear Walter's not feeling good. I said, gee, I don't know how you found out, but yeah, that's right. George just called. He says, yeah, I'll be over there tomorrow. He says, I'll be there. 20 minutes later, I get the third phone call. And it's from Francis Coppola. And he's in Europe. And he says, it's my birthday tomorrow. And I'm going to be in London tomorrow, too. And we'll talk about it. So I had those three. And George took over for about a week, shooting the stuff, most of the stuff for the Gump, you know. A lot of stuff with that. And while Walter felt better, and Walter finally felt better, Stephen was there a couple of days, but they left it to George. And Francis was there, you know, giving Walter his attaboys, and he stayed with it. And Walter completed the picture. Okay. Continue asking me a couple of more questions, and I got to go to a screening. So tell me what's coming.
Regarding the sequence when they had Furzebalt go through the electric shock therapy, now I'm wondering, was there any thoughts that you guys had in actually showing the people that were damaged in the cellar that were locked? Was there any possible?
No.
Okay.
That was in the hallways. I think we had some stuff, and it was just, I always thought, that's when I really started worrying about the direction of the movie. And when I say direction, not only direction, but the direction of the screenplay and the direction of the mood, and what it's about Return to Oz, that I feel there was a sense of dread. It was not, especially at the beginning, a terrible sense of dread. And that it wasn't the kind of dread that you experience in The Wizard of Oz, for example, you know, but it was a different kind of dread. It was too real, because when you see The Wizard of Oz, you're put into a major imagination area.
Right.
But here, that early part, you know, to bookend it as they did in the, and that was the purpose, obviously, to show something, you know, dreadful that transports Dorothy. It was too real, and I remember Freddie Francis and I talked about it, because those were early shots. Those are the shots with Nicole Williamson that took so long, and it wasn't the lighting, believe me. So, but the fact of the matter is, Walter ultimately finished that picture, and in so many ways, there's some extraordinarily classic things about it. There's a look about it, frankly, with the mirrors and with the costuming and with the wheeling people. I mean, there's a great sense of fantasy to this movie. It was really done beautifully, and in that regard. But the score was too morbid. The score, you know, I know people wanted to hear Dorothy sing, but you know, this was a different thing. This was Baum on a, you know, this was a different thing. This was